is on the progress of our DNA backlog clearance, so-called sexual assault kits. At the end of February, we approved the plan and contract with two DNA providers to take everything we had and begin the process. Pleased to report that everything is out of our hands and is in the hands of Bodie and Sorensen Laboratories to be tested. All cases that were awaiting DNA testing have now been sent out, and the testing process has begun. So while not everything is through the testing process, there's nothing sitting on a shelf anywhere in the city of Houston. It is all in progress. The cost of the outsourced testing, $4.4 million. Half of that is covered by National Institute of Justice DNA backlog grants that are offered to a number of cities, and the other half came from general fund monies that we set aside when we created our new Houston Forensic Science LGC with the intention of dealing with the backlog. We're on track. We're very excited that all of the existing cases are in the hands of the testers. Within the next 60 days, production reports should begin to be available, and we'll just start rolling them out. We're on track for that process. Anything y'all want to talk about?
What's your reaction to the passage of 42?
It's about time. It is substantially as we originally envisioned it. There were some adjustments made to accommodate neighborhood concerns, and we have a phase-in period, but it's long overdue. It standardizes our development ordinance across the city of Houston. Doesn't matter now whether you are an inner city neighborhood or out in the suburban areas of Houston. We have one code. The first determinant of what your neighborhood looks like and what development is possible is your deed restrictions. But absent deed restrictions, there are protections available to neighborhoods now under Chapter 42 that weren't available to some of these neighborhoods previously. And so during the year that we have built in to phase in the changes to the ordinance, it will give neighborhoods a chance to put minimum lot size and minimum building line designations in so they can protect neighborhood character. But the city of Houston has to grow. We have to have a more flexible development tool. I realize that a lot of folks think Houston, largest unzoned city in America, must be a freewheeling developer's paradise. But if you look at how long we took to pass Chapter 42, how carefully we looked at it, and the safeguards we built in to protect neighborhoods, you understand that we care about the character of what we develop in Houston. It's simply that we also recognize that the city needs to become more dense to support the population that we have here in this area. There are, now that we've passed Chapter 42, there are other issues with which we're dealing. We're still working on changes to our design manual for drainage, and we're also working on design manual changes in the area of streets, so-called complete streets, which, by the way, is not a term of art. It means a lot of different things, but things that were discussed as part of Chapter 42 will be coming as quickly as we can process them and get them to council.
I was going to say, what's the timeline on that? And could you talk a little bit about the advisory group? Because it sounds like that's the other thing.
There are some council members who wanted a formal, to appoint an oversight committee for Chapter 42. We have a planning commission. That's their job. That's their authority. But the working group that helped craft the various compromises that went into this final version of Chapter 42 is still available, and I'm going to certainly ask that they stay engaged during this year as we implement Chapter 42.
Mayor, can you react to Chad Hawley is arrested 2 officers today, but no contest, and given 2 years probation for duplication?
I'm glad that the decision by the chief of police and the department to sanction these officers has basically been affirmed. They have admitted that they behaved inappropriately. Our goal from the beginning was to set a strong statement about the officers' behavior of Houston police officers, and they were fired from the force. We don't want them back on the force, and we're moving on.
Do you think the punishment they were given, which I believe is 2 years deferred adjudication, but that they don't have to do the community service aspect of that, do you think that's enough?
I don't have a role in, with the district attorney's office, the punishment for these officers. The goal was to have them not interact with citizens of Houston as Houston police officers ever can, and we accomplished that goal immediately. And this judicial process or legal process is in the hands of the district attorney.
On the mayor's report on homelessness, are you confident that 2016 is a doable goal to end chronic homelessness?
I didn't pick 2016. That is actually a national goal, as was discussed. The president rolled that out. What we have to understand, and Mandy Chapman-Simple, our director of homelessness initiatives in the city of Houston, rolled out today, and she articulated, we cannot force, they're not intending to force people to go into housing. What we want to be able to say is anyone who needs housing has access to housing. They may choose otherwise, but will have access to housing. And we cannot stop all homelessness, but chronic homelessness is where someone is on the streets for long periods of time with associated health issues and so forth. I absolutely believe that we can stop that kind of chronic homelessness. And that's the goal. It's not to end all homelessness. Someone loses a job, you're temporarily on the street. There should be resources to help lift you up and get you moving. The chronic homeless, right now, according to our records, we're spending $100 million a year on issues of homelessness in the city of Houston. We have approximately 8,500 people. Calculate that out per person. Putting money into permanent supportive housing is a much more cost-effective answer. The difference now is that we have lots of agencies doing good work, caring, compassionate agencies providing excellent service, but we haven't been coordinated into a common goal where we distribute our resources in concert to make sure that we actually achieve some of the benchmarks. Everybody's been doing their own thing. Now we're going to do it together, executing off a master plan strategy. We had a dry run of that strategy last summer when we went into the Housing 100 Heroes in 100 Days to tackle veterans homelessness. That project worked so well with all of the agencies coordinating together that we extended that further, and we're going to build on that.
Mayor, Mandy stated that there are places that are already available for homeless. So will the city go ahead and start trying to facilitate and move them into there now, or are you going to wait until the project starts?
Well, it's not as if we haven't been doing things with homelessness for a long time. In January of 2012, when I publicly stated that that was going to be a priority for my administration in this year, it wasn't as if the city of Houston suddenly discovered the issue of homelessness, but what we did is that we committed to taking all of the available federal resources and local resources and moving to best practices. I brought in a team from HUD, I brought in national experts. They helped analyze what we had, what our assets were, what our weaknesses were, and help craft the strategy moving forward. And now I have a point person on staff who can quarterback the effort. If you, today, a lot of the folks on the street, we have housing available. We've had housing available. The issue for the chronic homeless is they don't have the wherewithal to ask for help. We have to go to them, we have to do the assessments, we have to wrap the services around them and move them into it. We had, as I said, we had our pilot program with our Housing 100 Veterans in 100 Days initiative. A lot of the chronically homeless are veterans, and we had some special tools to deal with veterans, but we're learning how to do it. We've learned how to do it more effectively. We're doing it every day now already, and we just want to ramp it up in the future.
Last 42 question. Even some of the council members today were talking about review, inspection, and enforcement. What are the steps forward on that, whether it's in the budget process or others?
None of this has anything to do with Chapter 42.
Well, right.
Just as long as you understand, same as I've had talks with the council members, everybody wants me to do this with no resources. I can't do this with no resources. I've done Chapter 42, which normalizes our development code. We are working on Chapter 9, which will put some new tools in to deal with drainage. But that still leaves a whole big piece of things that have to do with enforcement. The first issue is that, we do a really pretty good job of that first pass when the developers come in and they say, I want to do this, this, and this, and we check the plans, and we sign off or we don't. And then they go build it, we check off, and then we leave. And if it's what we're talking about in Chapter 42, if it's a townhome, I come in, this is a pretty nice townhome, but that oak tree in the front yard blocks my view, I want to take it out. So I go cut it down, which is a violation of city ordinance. Or, I really don't like people parking in front of my house. I view that piece of sidewalk and pavement in the road in front of my house as mine. So I'm going to go put a big pile of landscaping rocks so people can't step out of their car onto my grass, or they can't pull off into my grass. And they look better if they're in place, so I'm going to kind of put a little mortar around them. All of those are illegal things. Or I have a swale in front of my house. It helps carry water, but I like a nice smooth lawn, so I'm going to pay to fill in my yard and plant flowers over it, make a flower bed out of it. That's illegal. But there's nothing that would trigger a visit by the city to say, pull out that flower bed you just put in what's supposed to be part of your drainage system. Take those big landscaping boulders out of the city right away. At what point should the city intervene again in those issues? That's the policy, but that's what the neighborhoods want me to do. That's expensive, it's intrusive, and it's disruptive. What we're going to do is work with the neighborhoods that have asked for these things, and we have identified some targeted neighborhoods where we say, okay, we're going to go in and we're going to write up everything that these property owners are doing that's illegal. And we're going to analyze how expensive it is to do the citations, the citation process. We're going to analyze what would be involved in enforcing compliance. And then we as a city and as a council are going to have to decide how we're going to handle that. It is absolutely doable. It's very resource intense. The way we do it now is that we wait until someone in a neighborhood says, oh, by the way, the neighbor down the street filled in his ditch and put a flower bed in. Why don't you do something? And our response is, what neighbor? What's the address? It's complaint driven. If we're proactive, that is going to require a lot of resources, and it's going to make a lot of people extremely unhappy when we start telling them to remove these things.
When is that survey scheduled? You said sort of like a pilot project, sort of, to identify the scope.
I don't know exactly when it's supposed to start. We've been talking about it for some time. I didn't know you were gonna ask about it. I have to go back and see, but it's very resource intensive. We're gonna do it citywide. We're gonna pick some representative neighborhoods, and it came out of this discussion with these super neighborhoods who really, who face challenges. I actually saw it in October when I was out in, for National Night Out. And of course I had a multitude of spots for National Night Out, and a couple of them over in the Rice Military area where, the Civic Club president is saying, see those new townhouses on the corner, and the landscape rocks over there so that no one can park. It's actually city right of way. It happens to have grass. I can go and write a ticket and say remove those rocks, but it's better to sit down with the neighborhood association and say, this is what our ordinances call for, this is what's appropriate. Let's see if we can have a public awareness campaign, get folks to voluntarily do the right thing. If the reason they put those rocks there to keep people from parking in their yard is that maybe we need to have, it's a narrow street, and so folks are parking in both directions, and they're pulling more and more into the yard, puts ruts in the grass. Well, maybe we need parking on only one side of the street or the other. Maybe we need to put some parking pads. What is the solution? Not let's go out and write a bunch of tickets, or be the a lot of. Sometimes I've been a civic club president. It's really easy to get over into the taste police.
Just following up on that, will people be encouraged to call 311 and use their cell phones to report issues?
You can always call 311 to report what you think are a violation of city codes and ordinances. My particular pet peeve is when people go out and put up their very own no parking signs, or they put orange cones down in the street because they don't like people parking in front of their house, that sort of thing. But yes, call 311 if you think someone is doing something in violation of ordinance.
And what about the review in the public realm where there's like a fire hydrant, a pole, and all these things? That's like,
Okay, that's like a completely different issue.
still
And it's
enforcement.
it has nothing to do with chapter 42, and it has nothing to do with development.
It does have something to do
Okay,
with
no,
enforcement.
it has nothing to do with chapter 42. Let me
Right,
finish.
right.
Nothing to do with chapter 42, nothing to do with developers. It is, I brought it up today. There was council several weeks ago. Someone came and showed a project that the city of Houston had just signed off on, where they put sidewalks in and existing mailboxes. They had monument mailboxes, where people put bricks around their mailboxes, the existing monument mailboxes. The neighborhood association said, we want to keep our mailboxes. And so the city contractor, this is not a developer, this is, we paid for this, went and put sidewalks in that ended the mailbox. It was approved long ago. The neighborhood signed off on it. Okay, the neighborhood signed off on it. At some point, it's our responsibility to say, the neighborhood may want it. It's you have sidewalks, you don't have sidewalks, but don't put in sidewalks that go nowhere. That's a waste of money all around. That's our fault. It has nothing to do with code enforcement, nothing to do with inspection. That was a decision made in the Public Works Department that some idiot should never have made in the first place.